Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. So, Carrie Cassidy just came out with a little post to a bunch of us, and she said, "Let's get something straight." You know how Carrie is, right? So, think of her speaking. Regardless of the current managed seeding out to the media of the list of dead or missing scientists, all associated with reverse engineered UFO technology, free energy, plasma fusion, propulsion, and so on, keep in mind that whistleblowers, researchers, scientists, and journalists have been targeted by the deep state secret space program for the past 80 years, going back before the Nazis. All right, this isn't a new occurrence, guys. All right, so the fact that they're making a big deal out of now 13 scientists that have died mysteriously, the fact is that this goes back way back 80 years, right? And I've talked about this on several shows, you know, all the different people that have passed because they've been, you know, revealing this information, because the deep state wants to control this information. They want it for themselves. And they want to take this technology that's being developed. Deep state, if you haven't figured out yet, are Luciferians, right? And that's the highest level of evil. You have the Satanists, which are basically their puppets. And then you have the regular people like us, who they believe are cattle, right? To feed on, or, you know, drink our blood, whatever they want to do with our children, whatever. That's how they see the world. So, you know, killing a scientist that's developing information that's going to give us free energy sources and so forth, it's not going to happen. All right. They're not going to allow that to go forward. Now, what I believe is happening, and what we're going to talk about, is David Sarita basically came out with a video today, and he went down that rabbit hole, right? Because he's been involved in all of this technology that will give us free energy. He talks about nuclear powered batteries that would last 10,000 years. Imagine having your Tesla. You don't have to recharge it, right? For 10,000 years. Crazy, right? That's a technology that's available, and more. And that's just tip of the iceberg. So they're controlling that information. They're keeping it from us. They've been keeping it from us for a long time. And it looks like maybe, baby, that a lot of this, you know, cut back in the oil, and Lufthansa said they're going to have to cut 20,000 flights through October because of the doubling of jet air fuel, right? So, I mean, whatever. We know that you don't really use that much jet fuel anyway, knuckleheads. So that's just misinformation right there. So all they need is for jet fuel is to get up into the air, and then they just, you know, use the energy, and they're coasting through the through the air. If you look at those videos, there's lots of videos of that out there. If they really use the amount of fuel that supposedly they're charging us for to fly on their aircraft, they would have like these tankers that are stacked on the wings, not these little tiny wings with a little bit of fuel in there, right, guys? Come on. So there's lots of information that's right in front of us that they're keeping from us. They're keeping us dumbed down scientific wise. They're keeping us dumbed down as far as like all of this high tech information and so forth. So it's going to be very difficult to take these knuckleheads down. So could they be coming forward with some technology in the near future that they have stolen from these scientists. Kind of like, Nikola Tesla. They stole a lot of his information. And they've been using it for a long time at their underground facilities, DUMBs, and so forth. So could they be possibly coming out? I think they are coming out with the technology that they have stolen from scientists that they've killed over the years. And then scientists that are, rediscovering or discovering, continuing the discovery of some of these technologies, they're killing them off, right? So this is what we're seeing. This is absolutely what we're seeing. And it's been going on for a long time. So the Trump administration, by saying they're going to expose this stuff and coming out with Artemis 2 and Artemis 3, of course, Artemis 1 was Trump's first term. And we just had Artemis 2. How much of that is going to be part of Reveal? I think it's moving that direction. Now, a lot of people are very, sassy pants about, finding anomalies about the spacecraft Artemis 2. And they think that if they find something that's, incongruent and doesn't work, or somebody misspoke or said something off a little bit, like one of the astronauts said, and we launched on April 3rd. Well, what do you mean? You launched from Earth atmosphere, or because you launched on April 1st? So what is it? So there's some misspeak. Is that on purpose? There's a lot of that going on. How much of that was real? How much of it was because there looks like a lot of the stuff in the videos, guys, was real. Was that from other, craft or from other events, or did they really go around the boat? Who knows? All right. Right. I think some of it's true and some of it's bullshit. Right. And it's been that way for a long time for a lot of this stuff, because we don't need to blast off in, using rocket fuel. Now, once they get in space, then everybody's like, well, where's all the fuel that they need to go around the moon and come back? It's just like the jets, guys, when they go up in the air. Unless you're, flying you're a jet jockey in the military, you don't need all that fuel. Once you get into certain atmospheric conditions, then you don't need fuel. You're able to coast quite a bit. Now we're going to have Juan come in, and he's got some information that he wants to share. Juan, you got a nice little view there.
Yeah, I was just picking up an engine and moving it for one of my cars there. It's a LS motor, about 700 horsepower supercharged. So it's fun motor and trannies. So anyway, but they don't do anything unless you put them in something.
That's it. Just like those spacecraft.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got to make it go somewhere. Okay. Yeah, point it somewhere. Don't point it the wrong place. That's for sure. So, hey, I wanted to mention everybody's kind of getting amped up, and the president put something out yesterday about the Virginia election. Yeah. And I just want to let folks know, we have this conference coming up mid-June, 15th to the 17th there in Las Vegas. I've got a half a dozen, we may get a couple more before it's over with, of the top data people, the election specialists on the planet that are going to be presenting there. And just so people understand how connected they are, several of them have been providing data by request, have been providing data on the Virginia election situation to the White House and White House counsel and like that. So there's, and guaranteed, we know exactly how the fraud occurred in the Virginia election. I'll be very direct about it. It was fraudulent. We can prove it. There's no question about it. And as the president said, question is, are the courts going to do anything about it when the moment comes and the materials are presented through whatever means is chosen. And that's been a problem all the way along. The only thing I would say to the bad guys involved, both here and abroad, is that the president has already made it more than clear that should the courts fail to respond, we have options and we'll exercise those options. He'll exercise those options to make sure that we do not get the frauds that have been directed at us coming up in the 2026 election. It's a non-starter. The president knows that he, his family, and the patriot community would all be targeted endlessly. And he doesn't want that to get a chance to get started. And so we'll see how everybody responds. The difference is from other times when we've had the frauds in the elections is that we weren't as prepared to observe it real time, document it, and know exactly where to look to do what we got to do. So this time we got it all. We got it with exacting precision. Nobody's gonna be able to mess with us on this. It's if I was one of the bad guys, I'd be lawyering up right now. If I was connected to the bad guys and some of it could rub off on you, I'd be lawyering up right now.
Very good. And you're talking are you talking about the governor race?
No, the Virginia. What they had in Virginia was they did a redistricting race,
okay.
And there's all sorts of questions whether it was even legal what they tried to do. Part of the problem is that I think it'll get overturned in the courts on the legitimacy of even running the race the way it is. And it's very vague and squishy and bizarre in the language of this thing. But that said, the powers that be, the ones behind the scenes, the deep state players, couldn't restrain themselves. They had to try and get in there and control the direction that the election went. And so the problem for them is here's going to be probably overturned by the courts that it was even valid to do the election, but they're going to have been involved in election crimes. And a lot of the stuff that sounds like was old, going back to 2020 and 2022 and 4, this brings a lot of that up fresh. Same thing with what's going on in the primaries. And we've seen similar types of mischief in the primaries and documented, Texas being one of the places. There's other types of fraud occurring in places like Utah where I'm just telling you, those people are unhinged out there. They have no connection to reality. If you're a resident in Utah, you live in one of the most lawless places on planet Earth when it comes to elections and politics and bonds and everything else. I'm shocked, really. And we just, every time you roll over a rock, you find something more and you're like, oh my gosh, really?
Wow.
So, but it's like that in a lot of other places too, by the way. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The in Florida, it looks like they're going to really, they're going to do redistricting. And they're going to add a lot more Republican seats. So there's a lot of movement where they're talking about right now Republicans have 218 seats. They could move to 250 to 270 seats by the midterm elections.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is, though, I have an opinion on what's going to happen within this election cycle. I don't think that with the fraud that's already occurred, that we can take the chance of going the rest of the way on it. But we'll see. I mean, the president's got his thumb on it. He's got great, people advising him. But we'll see what actually happens. Just everybody needs to be assured the president isn't going to sit on his hands. What happened in 2020 is not going to be allowed to happen again now. And we're wise to the mechanisms that are being used to do these election frauds, by the way. So, people need to realize that. So,
yeah, they were predicting red waves in 2018, 2020, and 2022 didn't happen. So, we got to change this election system.
Well, and we don't have the luxury of pretending that we've got it and the red wave shows up and whatever. These particular types of thefts within the electronic systems are very real and very dangerous. And so, and then the court's not allowing us access to the CVRs, cast vote records, things like that, that allow us to prove what's going on. All of that has to change. So, and it will, again, this is a different mode. You can't compare what's going on now with what's happened previously. I think that's the important thing that a lot of people, they keep saying, yeah, it's been this way. Nothing's changed and not. Yeah, I'll bet money on that. That's not the case. We're going to have some amazing things happen. And the fact that the White House was getting briefing papers and briefs and in-person meetings on this exact issue. They're keenly aware now of exactly how the fraud happened in Virginia, what's happened in Texas, and some of the other places. So there'll be action. It's a different time, different situation. The one thing still though is that we all have cleanup to do from the past. We still got Tina in jail. Right. Absolutely, completely insane that she's in jail right now. And every day is just couldn't be more critical with her health physically. Plus, she's 70 years old. How would you deal with that yourself mentally? And everybody's coming to the rescue. The president gives you a pardon, and none of it can get you out. Who would have believed?
Well, there's got to be something that's coming up. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Keep praying.
Yeah, we got. There is actually. I'm aware, and I don't want to, give false hope or let the cat out of the bag. But there is some stuff that I'm aware of that's happened this week that I believe will ultimately, fairly shortly, have a positive outcome. And it'll be more than one step. But I think it's, there's been an agreement along this line now at least twice. And I think this one will get traction and happen, but we'll see.
All right. Good. Sounds like you're in a much happier crowd this time.
Yeah. For those that don't know, I was doing a little broadcast with you the other day, and David Kinney, and then some people had imbibed a little bit too much, and there was like 3 couples, and they were getting a little too over exuberant and bumped me. So I dropped my phone and picked it up, and I was laid back about it, and then apparently they had a little bit of a problem between a couple of the guys and went to fisticuffs, and then the women had to dive in to stop them, and one of them tagged me in an area of my shoulder that's a little hypersensitive, and so I was in it, and didn't quite know what to make of it at the time. But you got people that have had too much to drink and they're getting rowdy. It can be a little bit tough, and one of the guys was just being really going over the top, and that was the person that in the police, even when they were in a downtown spot, but it still took them about 7-8 minutes to respond. So there was a lot of drama in between. I had punched off my sound and punched off the video while I was going to move to a different area, and but I survived. It was life happens. So
I mean, you always give us a good view. That would have been a really good one.
Well, that one, the one I got, I still got a heck of a bruise on that shoulder. I don't know if it was from getting hit there or when I had to hit back, and my wrist still hurts. And the one girl, he hits too hard. He hits too hard. My boyfriend didn't mean it. Well, fuck. I mean, you know,
It's too hard. That's a good one.
yeah. You know, what am I supposed to do? They weren't playing. I mean, they might have thought they were playing, but I didn't think so. So anyway, but I'm okay. I made it. They're all okay. I think they took 3 of them to jail. So that's
Wow.
all that happens. But it's the nature of the beast. Life in the big city.
Very good. Very good. So, you know, we're at that point where, you know, we have all these scientists that are disappearing.
Yeah.
And, you know, David Wilcock, you know, whatever's going on with that. Yeah, we kind of talked a little bit about that. You said,
well, let me just dive right in there real quick before we get to that, because I don't want to entangle David's situation into the other scientists. The reality is, David was a friend since shortly after he got out of high school, even.
Wow.
And so I knew David for a very long time. And I'll just be frank, I had tried to tone it down with him several times, and we were good friends. I mean, I spent time with him a number of times, and there were some things there that I just felt were not helping on certain subject matter and wasn't accurate or correct. And he had tried to intone once or twice that maybe I was in agreement with him. And I said, no, David, not a chance, not on some of these certain things. And, you know, even talking with a couple of other close friends of David over the last couple days, it was interesting. Both of them said the exact same thing. You know, if you kind of look back on it, you saw this coming. And the short version is that David, for whatever reason, when some police arrived at his place in Boulder, he had a gun on him, and he pulled it out and shot himself in the head. So that is so sad. This is somebody that I enjoyed his company, didn't agree with on everything, but you know, I'm not the internet police and give room for people to hear what's said, and then people have to weigh out and make their own decisions.
Yep.
The reality is, though, that this is, you know, fundamentally a nice person and somebody that I had enjoyed the company of and had some respect for. You know, I can have friends that I don't agree with and still be friends and have a conversation. That said, I see some of the internet chatter trying to tie him because he talked about things going to space and aliens and what's coming with disclosure and all sorts of things. And the reality is that there was nothing there that David had that was the reason for taking him out, and he did it by his own hand. It's very sad, but if you convolute it into these other situations, I think you dilute what these other situations truly are.
Yeah.
And there is very real, bizarre drama. I was aware of this problem as, you know, people were asking questions. I think about 2 years ago with something that happened with a couple other people, and we were trying to look and see if it had been going on for a period of time prior to that. Mm-hmm. And then the thing that probably raised it to the top of the charts was the disappearance of this general who had access in a lot of this stuff. And by the way, was far enough up the ranks within the UFO phenomena. If you remember, Hillary Clinton in the WikiLeaks stuff all the way back in 2016 when that was released, when we looked at the WikiLeaks data, commented in a post to John Podesta in an email, maybe it's time to play the alien card.
Mhm.
And so, this particular general had access and was working on stuff related to what are referred to as alien technologies. And then Podesta was literally at classified facilities, um, uh, reviewing this stuff with this general. So it was a very big deal. And so you wonder, the alien card, this general, some of the other connections, other people involved out there. It was a very bizarre thing. And going down the road, it blew my plastic off a little bit. But how are we going to deal with this now? Do we actually know who's behind this and what's going on? I don't think there's a lot of questions that don't have good answers thus far. And it's very disconcerting. Imagine even with the general, he left his cell phone behind, his credit cards, ID, other stuff. He put on some hiking shoes, took off his street shoes, and there's a mountainous area nearby. So, what was going on? Didn't tell his wife was going to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Kind of bizarre stuff. So it
That,
certainly
like, all
warrants.
staged, so you can't take any of that. Don't know if that's real or what. So
Right, and from your or my background, that the art of deception, the illusion, the things that are done to, take you down a different rabbit trail. And if you got guys that are really good, they've thought this out. They know all the key clues to leave behind, if you will, and do so. And so now you're like, well, is it this way or is it that way? What's the real answer? And you got to sift through that stuff and figure it out. And the systems that they were working on are just very advanced. Some involve the other physics. And so the question is, was somebody trying to disable our ability to proceed and develop
right.
new technologies? Or were they trying to learn? We got somebody that's missing. Is that person, being trying to make them give away certain information or secrets or something like that, which could include not the technology, but other people that may be able to help with this other technology. So it's a pretty bizarre situation. I think it's very, very real. And it goes to a whole nother level of the nation state conflict, war by another means, taking out some of these scientists.
Yeah. And so the advanced technologies, connecting and, re-engineering the advanced technology we've gotten from the spacecraft that have crashed here on Earth, and, back engineering, all that stuff. And then the scientists are basically taking that to the next level. It seems like a lot of those people, and not just 11 or 13 as it is now, scientists, but going back 80 years all the way, you mentioned the Nazis, all the way back to the Nazis, so this control of information.
Well,
that's amazing engine you have there, by the way.
Oh yeah, the guys that actually know what they're looking at. It's pretty cool. It's got supercharger up here, and it's brand new from GM. And they were sitting at the shop, and they weren't getting it done. So I have somebody else going to go ahead and finish it up. But it's going in a fun project. But the place where I think you have to kind of understand how long this has been going on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the name of the book. One of the OSI guys, Air Force Office of Special Investigations guys, did a book, The Wheel, and I can't think what the first part of it is in the name, but looking at the developments that were going on all the way back to 1815. And what we had in 1815 is in Germany and Europe in a more generic sense, but in Germany precisely, there was a club, an organization, secret handshake group, if you will, of industrialists and people with new ideas, scientists and like that. And they decided that they needed to be able to work in secret, and they couldn't do that in Europe itself. There was too many people, too many governments knew what was going on. So they sent a breakaway group to Argentina, and they worked in Argentina, bought a large ranch, and people don't understand this really right now. Argentina in that period was the second fastest growing economy in the world. It was U.S. was the biggest, and Argentina was the second biggest, and very similar to much of the states with the mountains, the ocean, different climates. It's just like California to Alaska across the length north to south, and beautiful. I mean, you got wine country to the north, and then at the very tip down at the bottom, Bariloche, which is where many of the Nazis went. In fact, one of my contacts who was deeply involved in NASA through the 50s and 60s and into the 70s. In the 80s, he'd already retired, early 80s. But then he told me, and he liked to do art and stuff like that. So he said, no, I'm moving to Bariloche. And he gave me a bunch of stuff that he had. He's like, nope, I don't want anything with me. I'm not taking anything with me. I'm just getting on the airplane going. He met a girl, supposedly, and he packs up and goes down to Bariloche. And I get pictures from him all the time and the German villages and all the fun stuff. Well, you talk about somebody that was a real for real scientist. It never quite made sense. And it was probably early 90s, just before the Whitewater stuff erupted for me. And one of his friends said, hey, you know what he's doing down there? I said, no, I have no idea. He says, no, he's going back and forth to Antarctica. And this guy had met him at the boat. He was taking stuff back and forth to Antarctica. And at that time, he was probably in his late 60s, early 70s. And then we didn't hear anything more from him. And I've always wondered, what was going on really with him. And he had very unusual skill sets and history. But the thing about Argentina was they were developing motors and aircraft predominantly. In fact, an aircraft that was captured, that was crashed, that was recovered by a U.S. team was brought back to the U.S., smuggled back, and reconstructed, and then was demonstrated, according to a number of reports, as a lighter than air aircraft for President Lincoln while he was alive, and his cabinet came out and observed it. And they were unable to think of how they could use this. It was interesting, but they couldn't quite figure out how to use this or apply it. Now, across the southern part of the U.S. in the later into the 1800s, there's numerous reports of air vehicles, which we would understand today to be Zeppelin-type vehicles, were reported and floating across the skies, moving across the skies, across the southern United States, Texas, other places. And those also were apparently being tracked and had origins in Argentina. And of course, when Germany showed up and there was this race between the Western powers to develop these blimps, it was amazing how far ahead of everybody else Germany was early on. Well, it was because they were getting a lot of their technology, including the engine technology specifically, from their breakaway operation that was out of sight, out of mind. And part of the interesting thing there is also that When Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the whole story that we all know from the movie, the rest of the backstory on that is that Butch never actually killed anybody, and he did the train robberies. He was out there in the area that was the Utah territory at the time, but some of the other hole in the wall guys were a bit more wild and had apparently become quite a nuisance, killed a couple of people. And the assertion is that some kind of a deal was made with the governor of the territory to let the hole in the wall gang get caught, and that Butch would allow and assist on that. And the agreement was made with Sundance's help. Well, it turns out Sundance was a Canadian Mountie, and was embedded with that operation with Butch. When they allowed the rest of the hole in the wall gang to get apprehended on a train robbery, then they had to go hightail it somewhere, and they went to Argentina. And in Argentina, what were they doing? Well, they were surveilling this breakaway operation, picking up where others had to leave off. They bought a ranch that technically wasn't that far from this German operation, but wasn't right down their throat. It was like 50 miles away, and worked from there. And when you see the movie with the gal in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, in real life, that woman was not romantically involved with either of the men. She was, they had a Sisters of Charity type thing in that era, where women who swore to remain virgins would then assist the women who were involved in prostitution to, get them through that period and all that. And it was a very, they played a very important role societally. And so that woman that you see in the movie, she was actually also working as intelligence for the U.S.
Wow.
and reporting for that, doing an intelligence operation specifically against the German intelligence. There was reasons why she had favorability into that. When they left Argentina, they didn't die in the gunfight the way that you saw. Came back to the States, Butch and Sundance. They were in contact with her in the San Francisco area. Sundance went back to Canada. Butch remained in the area and then was continuing to do intelligence work. And she had tried to infiltrate a division of this industrial operation, and apparently was killed. And so Butch came down. The autopsy showed her as a virgin, which they thought was unusual given her age. And but she was doing that work. And of course, when you think about it, if you have somebody that has access into the prostitute community, they have access into a lot of these nefarious communities and would have intelligence. And so this is a perfect cover, if you will, for other things that she would have been doing if she was an intelligence officer, and which is what the indication is. And so after that point, Butch himself then kind of disappeared into the woodwork because they were apparently blown on their cover looking at the German operations. And this is, a decade before we broke into World War I. And so this has been going on for a very long time. And that operation in Argentina didn't stop there. What they were doing with the lighter than air vehicles was transiting, going down to Antarctica. And they were able to transit very quickly, hit lots of different areas, and do a lot of the build out there that is virtually unknown in the West. And that has been going on for quite some time. And of course, when you're under the ice, you don't get a bad day, you don't get bad weather, you don't get a storm. You have geothermal, so you have, even back before we had other, systems, you had the ability to, generate power, lights, everything else. And if you're in, the underground hot springs areas, the lakes,
Yeah.
you're 62 to 68 degrees every day. Never a bad hair day, 2 miles under the ice. Nobody's touching you. So there's a longer story there. But we are dealing with a breakaway on the technology. These people are very advanced. And imagine, if they're gaining, a year on us every 10 years. And you start adding it up, and they're not getting blown to pieces with the latest war. You got some real problems. Obama, his last foreign trip was hitting a bunch of South American countries, ending up in Bariloche, and then he and Michael go off horseback riding and disappear for a day and a half, and nobody sees them up close and all that. Well, where did they go? Well, the reports were that they went down to Antarctica, spent better part of a day, and came back. So it's a short trip from that area. So, and that was the summertime. So there's a lot of mystery in there. And then when you have scientists who are just bring, by the way, even at 1947 with Roswell and stuff like that, there's been some great work looking at the materials. And of course, Art Bell was a friend, and he had some stuff that was purportedly from Roswell. It was not stuff that was commonly built, but it was within the technology that we're able to do now, and even within the last several years. So some of the combinations looked, otherworldly. The reality is they may just have been a decade or two or five ahead of us. They weren't thousands of years ahead of us, and very indicative of a breakaway. And that area was very close to where we had a lot of the German scientists holed up there in New Mexico also. So there's all sorts of bizarre things. And just one last thing I'll add. For example, we had a vehicle that showed up, parked over a missile area with silos during the Cold War. And then these missiles suddenly started turning on and going to launch mode all by themselves without any operator interaction. So it was widely portrayed as being, space aliens showing us that, if we don't stop, our weapons and whatever, they can stop them on command. The reality is, think of what we have today with back doors and programs and the technology to remote control things. If you've got somebody on the inside that's providing you access to put certain Trojans in place, all through a system, you could easily envision something where this isn't outer space technology. It's not from a gazillion years ago. It's just that you have somebody that's very advanced, working over your shoulder and able to undermine your systems and test whether they had that capability or not. And so it takes a little bit of the mystery out of it. Even when you look at this war that we're in with the breakaway, Trump even saying that he's going to release some of the UFO information can also be interpreted that he's actually releasing information that will help those that actually know what they're looking at to understand you're not dealing with aliens from 50,000 light years away. You're dealing with something that's very homegrown next door and a serious problem.
Yeah. I mean, even in World War II, we had, that's amazing what Butch Cassidy's son is. Good God, your knowledge is so amazing. V1, V2 rockets. V1 was a cruise missile, first cruise missile. V2 was a missile, and then they had the first jets. And Tuskegee Airmen shot 3 of them down because when they banked and turned, they slowed down. The Tuskegee Airmen with their P-51s were able to like shoot them out of the air. But yeah, they've had incredibly advanced technology, and they just move somewhere else when we feed them into Germany.
Well, and think about this. The metals, the metallurgy is so key, but they had developed all sorts of metals that were way advanced beyond other countries around the world, or even where we knew how to do stuff, they were able to come up with better production methods. So, for example, when it came to nuclear isotope separation, this stuff needed to make the bomb. Yeah. They had perfected laser isotope separation in 42. Yep. And it took a lot of power to do it, but you didn't have to use like the centrifuges like Iran was using and stuff like that. With laser isotope separation, with that technology, something that would, when we did it at the Clorox facility in southeastern Washington at Hanford, they had 50,000 workers just working on the nuclear isotope separation and maintaining the little machines and keeping them going and all that other stuff, and huge power. They had to put it there by the Columbia River because it took massive power to do it. When the Germans did it, it took a real number, about a half a dozen technicians and about 100 other people handling other parts of the operation. And then it took a lot of power also, but nothing approaching what it took for us. Well, they just were ahead of the game that much further. We didn't come into nuclear isotope separation, and it was, till the 50s. And it was with the help of the German scientists that perfected it for the Germans. They'd been working on it since the early 30s and got it perfected in the early 40s. The German scientists coming into the American military and intelligence machine was crucial to the advancements that we have. And then part of the question has been, how many of them were truly brought over to the West, and how many of them were actually still maintaining some subterfuge where they were still working, with, Nazis that survived the war. We defeated the German army. We did not defeat the Nazi army.
Very good. Yep. Yeah, they were close to the bomb. We destroyed their heavy water plant in Norway through special forces operations. Otherwise, they would have probably been dropping a bomb on us.
Well, let me add this there. So I had a member of the Wolfpack Society or Club who was American, but he had one of his close friends was actually one of the German submariners. And they both became friends when Germany turned over a submarine that had the nuclear material that by many, many accounts, and he was absolutely adamant that we only had enough money or enough refined material for the test at Trinity. We did not have enough to do the two bombs. And wow. Japan was aware that we were developing this capability, and they initially said, we threatened to do it again, and they initially said, no way, you're not going to be able to do it because you don't have enough material. We know you don't have enough material. Well, the reality is, we had not produced enough material at Hanford to make another bomb yet. But we did have material that came from Germany on that sub and other technology. And my friend was extremely adamant that he took that material all the way through to where it went to an assembly location on the East Coast. And he had to turn that over to the other people there. And but he was there with the security team. He had certain technical skills that allowed him to be needed to be present. And that has been told a number of times by other people also. I think it's absolutely accurate that we did not have the material. The material we had came from Germany. And that along with other technology and those scientists that made the deal, they traded that for passage to the West. They did not want to end up in Russian hands. That was the point.
Incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that'll make a lot of sense. So I've heard of stories not that magnificent, but similar stories of the Germans bringing us technology that they had developed for safe passage. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that this scientist thing is a different thing than maybe what some of the people are portraying.
Great
we
insight.
need to go slow on this and understand that, this is nation state stuff. And even President Trump's, threat to do some type of disclosure may not be as precisely at space alien stuff as it is closer to home. And by the way, for example, we've had lots of fantastic people.
Yes.
Catherine Austin Fitz being one, who have been able to go through the budgets and find the money missing going to earmarked for space programs and the hidden space program. But I've contended for a very, very, very long time that's a misnomer. It's not outer space, it's inner space.
Yeah.
And it's these vaulted facilities that even within the breakaway, you have people that believe they're on the right side of history, feathering their nest to be able to survive what's coming. And so of sharing technology, working with some of these groups. So the wars that we see, Mideast and elsewise, may not be precisely what most people believe. In fact, let me just say this. So Albert Pike, in his book Morals and Dogma, said that they needed 3 world wars to take over the world, to create a one world government, which was this Masonic goal for within the Freemason groups. And remember, Freemasonry has been heavily part of American history and lore and like that all the way along. Washington, D.C. is a Freemason, the whole city is built around Freemason themes, all the architecture, the street angles, everything else. The government, the military, you can't get higher rank in the military, move up through the ranks easily unless you're a Mason. And that's been the case for generations. So the problem is you have a group that at the highest levels believe that you have to make 3 world wars so that we can have a one world government. Okay. And they want to use our political system, our military, et cetera, for that. And they're embedded in other nations too, around the world. Look at Iraq with Baghdad. Saddam built the center of Baghdad around Masonic themes also. Same statuary. It was like a ode to Washington, D.C. Very heavy Mason involvement. Here, we're fighting. We're at conflict. That's part of the reason he couldn't believe they were coming after him. The devil only wants you as long as he needs you. And then when he doesn't need you anymore, you're fodder for the next cannon. But the reason that I mention that is because within these very secretive locations within the military and intelligence and then the science, you have a very heavy presence of Masons. And without going way deep into it, several of the people that hold the highest possible positions within certain areas of the science and technology, NASA, everything else, very high level Masons, and they keep their thumb on everything. The question is, are they passing that information between each other, including in other country locations where fellow Masons are at? Are we that infiltrated? And that has been a very strong contention by many people looking at this. And technology sifted out and sifted in because they want the best enemies money can buy, so they can maneuver us into this position where we end up in a third world war. And that's what Trump is actually fighting. He is undermining these connected networks, both inside our government, the various agencies, and other governments. And it's one of those things that's certainly hotly contested by some people, but in reality, I'm very comfortable that he's on the white hat side doing exactly what you have to do to expose these connections and networks and secret handshakes and everything else, to move us away from this planned for and intended Third World War, which in my opinion is actually the Fourth World War, because we won the Third World War, we defeated the Soviet Union, and they don't exist anymore. So this would be the fourth, but they don't count ours.
Very good. So that Southern Poverty Law group,
Yeah,
that exposed, they just exposed that basically they were just instigating, this Nazis and all that stuff, so that they could, get more money and, do their lawfare and all that kind of stuff. It's crazy stuff that's being exposed.
well, I was exposed to a lot of that back in the mid 90s with stuff that we were doing related to Whitewater, and there was some people that were pretty adamant about that, and I didn't know enough at the time, but I heard what they had to say, and it sure made sense to me that it wasn't doing what it was purported to be there to do. And so I was, I had other lanes that I was in and wasn't able to dig in deeply, but I had other people around me that were just adamant that this was a bad deal. The person that probably is the expert on that is Louis Herms. He's been talking about this for a number of years. He's a friend of both of ours, running for governor in California.
Yep.
So he's the guy that rather than talk out of school. I mean, I know the basics probably a little more than the average within the public, but the guy that really could talk with excruciating detail and precision with his experiences would be Lewis, and he'd give you an earful.
Yeah, that's a good point. Great.
So,
yeah,
and of course he'll be there at our thing here in mid-June too. So that's going to be good. Epic.
Very good. All right, Juan.
So and by the way, if anybody hasn't signed up, I mean, get in there. We have rooms that we secured at the Sahara Kitty Corner to it, and got a great price. They gave us rooms for $89 a night, and then cut this silly Las Vegas whatever it is tax that they have there by half. So we've got super buy on those rooms, and they're nice rooms. And then for the people attending, just so you know, we're going to feed you well. There's not good restaurants. There's good restaurants, but there's not enough, and it takes time to go to them like that. And the Ahearn actually gets awards and is well recognized as having the best catering, as good as anybody there in Vegas, and great high quality. Yeah, you saw what they got. Yeah, you ate it last month. Okay. Yep. So people, we're doing dinner the first night, meals all day, three meals, and you'll have everything else out there through the day. on the main day, and then on the third day, breakfast and lunch, and we added dinner for those that are going to stay, because that evening on the Wednesday night, no different in the charge or like that. That Wednesday night is when all of our experts are going to provide, the detailed analysis of the vote fraud within the electronics and the cast vote records and all the other stuff. That it's probably not for everybody, and that's why we saved it for last. But if you want to know with precision, you want to ask the guys, well, what about this, or how does that work in frauding the vote? That team that's going to be presenting there, several of them are presenting at the White House with briefings, papers, in-person contacts right now today related to Virginia and Texas. So this is as high class of a group as you can get, really. And so the people attending that conference are not getting the riffraff. It's not just a cheerleading session. Several of the people that will be presenting have already put in their notices of fraud claims with the IRS, Becent, and U.S. Treasury, Becent. And for this claims, they're going to pay up to 1/3 of any monies that are, identified within these fraud schemes to the people that present the actionable stuff. So there's a form, there's details, and we got several of our speakers have already filed theirs. That's how far along they are, and expect to get paid big money. So
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be worthwhile. It's going to be a great conference.
Definitely. So I got the link in the description box, and you have the Jenna Mac.
Yeah, the Jennifer Mack. You got to put the in there. She has great stuff over at the store, and I signed a bunch of the Megador jackets and the 2020 It's Not Over Yet jackets, and so she has those. When I was there at the store, whatever, a few weeks ago, and then she's got a coin, especially coin, over on her site, and I've got a different one on my site over at All Patriots at gumroad.com, and really a very good price that I'll hold while silver's under 100. And don't think silver's not going anywhere. It's poised to make a very solid move. It's working in the inverse of what's going on with oil. So as you see oil up or down, the silver has been kind of going the opposite direction. And both are tangible and used for industrial purposes and to make things happen and work and all that. So as oil goes down, silver will go up because more industrial stuff happens. And that's kind of the thinking. And I expect, the working stuff going on right now related to reindustrialization of America and the factories going up. Remember, silver coming in to support the growing business sector in the U.S., they pay a 50% tariff. And so it's an incentive for the U.S.-based mines to get back to it and start mining silver. But the mining companies don't want to make these huge capital investments till silver is at least at 240, and most of them are saying they're not going to start till it's 280, and they feel that it's going to be solid. And of course, Vice President Vance is working with a number of the mining companies that are negotiating for strategic materials. Silver's been moved into the category of strategic material now, which means we need it in order to provide a defense. And so they're negotiating a floor for silver for use within government military operations. And it's somewhere between 240 and 320. And most everybody is kind of the mind that it's going to end up at 280, and it probably won't happen until sometime next year. But when it does, and when the anticipation is there, you'll see it moving sharply up. And in fact, there's people that are trading within silver futures or options and spending big money on the bet that silver is going to be $90 to $100 by December. So people on the know on the inside are spending very serious money on that bet. They feel they know something that the rest of us don't know. And but I actually think that's not completely ridiculous. I personally expect it somewhere up there around 140, 150, but we'll just see.
Yeah. So I think it's going. I think we're in the beginning stages of this bull run in silver. So those low numbers, but something that people can grasp at this point. So I think we're gonna see more. But yeah, you have a great. You got the latest one, and I just put it in the chat. To the moon. I like that one. I haven't. That's the only one I don't have yet. So you're going to see a little order for me coming in because I like to get big on those. So.
Well, the flip side on that is, of course, it's JFK to DJT because
beautiful.
President Trump. Part of this. Let me just say this. I think this is really important for people to kind of understand.
Mm-hmm.
I watched every launch. I watched, all the way back to the Redstones, the launches, and would feign not feeling good, stay home, watch the launch, stay up all night, watch the black and white TV, and so I mean Shepard, glued to the TV set, move back from the TV, don't sit so close. Hold the antenna on the rabbit ears because it's getting a little squishy there. It was so fun. Some people just have no idea because they don't grow up in that era. Yep. But I remember adding aluminum foil to the rabbit ears to try and get them a little bit better reception. But anyway, we had this belief, this understanding, this promise that we were going to advance in amazing ways. And then 2001 A Space Odyssey, amazing to think of going to the moon, building a habitation, having space stations flying over our head by 2001. This was late 60s, 68, 69, 70. And to see all of that short stopped and not completed, and with the shuttle stuff and the space stations, we're just going around circles out there. A lot of the stuff that supposedly we're learning, we really already know it very well. It's just a seeming waste of time and money, tethered, to the earth, and so within the idea of reindustrializing America and turning on the productivity engine. I'm out on the East Coast right now, and I had to drive over to Cincinnati the other day. And even where I'm out in the Carolinas right now, the amount of businesses, factories, stores closed up, never to open again. I was down at a place that was a huge factory complex, employed 20,000 people a few hours ago. All the way up until the early 80s, and closed down, and all of that industry went to China, all of it, and all those jobs gone, all those people gone, manufacturing certain machine parts. That's a story that repeats over and over. The big steel mills going to South Korea and Asia and like that. The boat building, the cars, the airplane wings, everything else. And we paid for it. Our politicians made us pay to move the industry out of the country. And we got the higher taxes. What Trump's doing with raising the tariff and promoting business inside America is pushing that we lead this realization of America and the West, the partners that we like that are, freedom loving, if you will, and aren't, half crazy, want to bomb us every day. And that's jobs. That's a future for the kids. That's a life. That's means going back to space instead of mining solely here on the Earth, doing mines on the moon. And the habitations on the moon won't be on the surface. They'll be under the surface to provide protection from the cosmic activity like that. With that in mind, you, in a Kennedy-esque style, want to get people to reimagine, to envision what that's like, because without a vision, a people perish. That's scripture. And so you have to give them a vision in their heart. And part of the thing that really bothers me for like the young people we have, within the Patriot movement, oh my gosh, I got the bunker fully stored. I got more gas. I'm getting more gas. I'm, digging down a layer deeper. How does that come across to young people? It makes them fatalistic, literally it can drive them to, drinking, drugs, whatever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, I'm going to do all this investment in education in the future and working hard. And I'm not going to get a house. I'm going to get a, 300 square foot apartment or something in grandma's basement. And so part of this reindustrialization of America is aimed at the youth, and by showing them a future in space and stretching out off the planet and establishing our habitations above the Earth, near and far, and going to a moon base and doing mining out there. The jobs, I have somebody that's just graduated from college with a mining degree. And I said, I'd go back in and do your PhD. And I would do it on mining. That's one of my hot rods. The mechanic is going down the street. Anyway, we would want to have the kids. I told this kid just got his mining degree, graduated. Says, you ought to go back and do a PhD on mining and mining technologies that are required for the moon and for asteroids.
Wow.
And what the next 20 years could look like, the next 50 years, the next 100 years. Because we won't take everything off the surface of the Earth to take it up there to build stuff. A lot of the stuff will use materials that are right there on the moon and or even asteroids to do our manufacturing. And a lot of the materials won't be made the way they are here because we can make them for use in space different ways. Glassified materials, weight isn't quite the problem there if you can get it up to it like it is trying to pull it out of gravity and fly it through the atmosphere and stuff like that. So, in fact, weight can be your friend. So sometimes you want to manufacture with much heavier weights, way beyond what you have to down here on the surface. And so there's a lot of details there for mining and manufacturing in low gravity and zero gravity environments, and low atmosphere or no atmosphere environments. For example, on the moon, the material that's available, sand, you would build glass facilities and even tunnel going through material that you would turn to glass, as opposed to 2x4s or, iron beams and things like that. And in that kind of environment, it's actually much stronger even than steel or iron or things like that. So there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had about how are you going to build, what materials are you going to use, what fluids are you going to use, things like that. And that's why this, I'm probably guilty of that often too. I have hot rods.
Yeah, you definitely
yeah. I like a lower thump. I don't like the sharp stuff myself. I like a little throatier or less throaty. I like the deeper resonant sounds. So anyway, but that's the conversation ahead, and I think that's what has helped me. So that's why doing the coin JFK to DJT, I think is important because we have a lost generation that didn't get to enjoy what they were supposed to enjoy, going back and picking up where we left off, because our future was hijacked for many of us, and we're going to give that future back to the kids that are alive right now, picking up where we left off, and that's that coin. So very fun.
Very good. So yeah, you have unfortunately, there's seems to be a group that's been pushed into the don't believe in the moon stuff anymore. The thing is pretty tragic, but I think they'll come around.
Well, the only thing I can say, there's valid reasons to question so much of what we've been told, because unfortunately there was lies told for national security reasons, that I actually kind of get at a certain level. And yet I personally don't think it was right. The fraud is more damaging than the truth would have been at the time. There's other ways we could have combated. And I think with frauds that happened on the first landing stuff, doesn't mean though that we're not doing many of the things that we're doing. I will tell you that, for example, a number of the videos related to the shuttle stuff and the space station stuff, clearly fraudulent, clearly not what was going on. One of the ones that was funniest, so I'm actually at a facility with a couple of scientists. We're talking, and the guy's showing me this video that was taken on one of the shuttle flights where they go to the space station. And he says, what do you think's wrong with this video? And I am looking. I cannot see, And he says, well, you see this over here? And he points at the corner of the window. That is a fly that's on the outside of the spaceship. we look at it and go, oh my gosh.
Frustrating.
Yeah, I mean,
it discounts all the other stuff that is real. So
yeah, and so in other words, I guess what I'm saying is that it's not without some basis.
Yeah.
That there is huge skepticism of some of the stuff going on. NASA never a straight answer, but we are doing stuff and going to the moon, and the president's not participating in fraud. We're working through this. There is stuff that I think trust but verify, and I'm glad we have people that are going to hold everybody's feet to the fire.
Yeah.
But the idea here is to stretch out, go where we're supposed to go. God's promise to Abraham was that he would have children as numerous as the sand on the seashore. Well, we've probably had a dump truck load of kids here so far, so there's a lot of sand on the seashores. We're nowhere near that. And then as numerous as the stars in the sky, an earthly seed and a heavenly seed. And, the amount of stars out there and solar systems and planets and everything else, there's more stars out there in all the galaxies than all the sand and all the seashores on the entire planet, easily many, many, many times over. In other words, there's a future for humanity, the children of Adam, that God intends, and it will never be fully realized here on this orb. We will stretch out and do amazing things, and what will it look like 1,000 generations from now? Pretty wild. A million generations. We'll stretch out. It's going to be amazing. So this is the first step, and President Trump is trying to help the kids of this generation to begin to envision that, figure it out, and go do it.
Yep. That's great. I love it. It's happening. Moving in the right direction. Yep. Thanks so much, Juan. Great information as always. We're always going to appreciate it when you come on. So thanks for taking the time.
Well, and let me just add this, Michael. There's huge revelations that are in the offing right now. I don't think they're very far out. 2020, it's not over yet. There's some stuff
That's going to
coming
be
out,
big.
even with what happened over in Virginia and Texas and like that. But the reason I mentioned that, certain aspects of that affect Tina's situation. Prayer. Everybody, there's no room for frustration, upset, whatever. Prayer changes things. I heard somebody that had a near-death experience here recently, and one of the things they said that they saw prayers going up, and they were actually like building blocks. They were very substantial. They weren't vaporous. They weren't airy. They were building things out. So, I don't know. There's more to it than I think sometimes people give credit to it for. God spoke the whole world into existence, and there's some kind of a principle there that when we give him permission, ask, he does things because we do engage. And the situation with Tina, I would want everybody to be able to take credit for praying her out of this situation and having some tangible part of that, if not understood or seen in this world, in the next world. And let's pray Tina out of this situation. She needs our help desperately. She's a American hero because she went in to protect the vote data that we now know was 1,000% true. They stole the vote 2020. She was protecting that information and data. She's the only person that went in and saved that data, which we can use in court, both inside the justice system and inside the military, as we go to military courts also. So she saved something that nobody else seemed to have the guts, will, understanding to dive in and do. And yet she's the one in jail. By divine ordinance, let's get her out.
I agree. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So, love you, bro. Appreciate getting a chance to talk to your audience. Sorry I had to bow out the other night. I got bumped out.
Should have kept going a little bit longer. I guess you did come in later, so
yeah. Just you guys had already
you fought through it and came through at the end. So didn't give me enough time. Sorry.
All right. Well, love you both, you and Tracy. You're great friends, and look forward to seeing you down there in Vegas in mid-June. And I sure hope a lot of your audience shows up. This is not. We're not playing around. We're doing something pretty amazing. It won't have a bunch of vendors or other stuff. We didn't want any of that. I think it would distract. We're all about business here. So come on down and enjoy it.
Yep. And from us, back to you and Jen. Lots of love to you guys too. Thanks a lot.
All right. Night, folks.
Night.